For Comedy Hype News, I'm Symphony Thompson. Before 90 Day Fiancé made long-distance relationships desirable, Terry McMillan's How Stella Got Her Groove Back was the original movie that sold this dream. The film had Black women all across America getting plane tickets to Jamaica in hopes of finding their ideal man. How Stella Got Her Groove Back is a semi-autobiographical story of Terry McMillan's real-life trip to Jamaica for vacation. 43-year-old Terry meets 20-year-old Jonathan Plummer and the two began a fling. However, after 5 days, the dream was over and it was time for Terry to return to California. McMillan says that she began writing the book as a fantasy about continuing her affair with Jonathan, thinking that the two would never see each other again. The only problem was she couldn't stop thinking about him. The two spoke on the phone every day until Terry invited him to California to visit. But that visit turned into a 3-year stay and the two eventually married. The film based on the movie follows Angela Bassett as Stella Payne, who takes a getaway girls trip to Jamaica with her best friend Delilah, played by Whoopi Goldberg. Stella is an extremely successful woman career-wise, just like Terry. Stella is a stockbroker, but Terry was a writer. Stella contributed to the success of the company, but her personal life isn't as successful. She's divorced, has a son, and gets poked fun at for not having a man around. But Stella seems content with her life. Fans of the movie can't help but offer up their own conclusions as to why a beautiful and successful woman is single. Well, according to ABC News, at least 60% of Black students who complete college and earn a degree are women. In addition to this, Black women made up 71% of Black graduate students. That same article also revealed that former co-host of The View, Sherri Shepherd, felt that successful Black women had trouble finding men. At the time of the statement, Shepherd was 42, nearly the same age as Terry McMillan. I think for a long time I was like, I don't need a man. I'm gonna make my own money. Well, I'm trying to raise a boy and I think he needs a man. I would love to have a man in my life to help raise my son. Jackie Reed, famous for VH1's Let's Talk About Prep, shared a similar sentiment. There are far too many Black wonderful women out there that are single and living alone and have no hope of ever finding a man. And I like to give them some hope. And that's where Stella Payne enters, the one who gave Black women hope. While in Jamaica, Stella meets Winston Shakespeare, played by Taye Diggs in his very first leading film role. Taye Diggs as Winston had women everywhere swooning over his character, and it worked because we all forgave him for whatever that accent was. After this movie, he became the Taye Diggs that we know him as today. Winston Shakespeare is 20 years younger than Stella, but he still catches Stella's eye at breakfast. Aside from Winston's charm, the first thing Stella notices is the age difference between the two. However, the more she talks to Winston, the more sides she starts to see of him. His charisma, persistence, consideration, attentiveness, and sensitivity and sensibility. The two become an item while she's on vacation, creating a fantasy for all women who are watching. How Stella Got Her Groove Back is an escape film. Women who enjoy the film love getting lost in Stella's dream world. The movie sells them on a specific ideal. This becomes much more than a fling, as Stella begins to develop feelings for him. When the vacation is over, Stella heads back to California, but ends up finding a way to go back to Jamaica and be reunited with the one she can't stop thinking about. It's a classic love story. Stella's best friend Delilah winds up in the hospital due to an illness. After hearing the news, Stella immediately heads home to take care of her lifelong friend. Winston makes an appearance at Delilah's funeral to console Stella. Despite all of Winston's good qualities, the age difference between the two continues to be the topic of conversation, particularly among Stella's older sister. In an interview with Charlie Rose, author Terry McMillan spoke about her own internal struggles when it came to dating a man 20 years younger than her. I started reassessing it all, and I just said, why not? What is wrong with this? This young man makes me feel really good. I feel like I've come back to life, and what's wrong with this? Why shouldn't I? Why should I feel guilty? And I started thinking, well, men have been doing this for years, still are. Realizing the double standard between men and women when it comes to dating someone younger helped McMillan choose happiness. Jonathan Plummer made Terry feel happy and really good, so she reflected that in her work when it came to Stella and Winston. In May 2020, The Insider posted an article where actress Kate Beckinsale would defend herself against the double standard between men and women. Kate, who was 46 at the time the article was written, had previously been linked to the 26-year-old Saturday Night Live cast member, Pete Davidson, and 22-year-old musician, Goody Grace. I witness men constantly doing whatever they like, whether that's in relationships or deciding to buy a bike or getting a tattoo. It hasn't been interpreted as, why hasn't he had more children? Or is he ever going to decide to become a parent? Or why has he had so many girlfriends? Kate's argument falls in line with what Terry pointed out in her Charlie Rose interview. Men have been marrying girls young enough to be their daughters and having children older than their wives without facing much adversity from society. Women like Terry and Kate had to reflect and soon realize that they weren't breaking any rules or hurting anybody. In the Charlie Rose interview, McMillan was asked why she thinks so many women resonate with her stories. She responded by saying that her stories are realistic and they can happen to real people, which is why so many women, particularly Black women, can see themselves and want themselves in Stella's shoes. In the end, McMillan confirmed that the lesson to be taken from how Stella got her groove back is to take a look at ourselves and do what makes us happy, and not to worry about 20 years from now. Instead, worry about next month, next week, tomorrow, or tonight. Unfortunately, Terry McMillan's happily ever after didn't last too long. By December 2004, after 6 years of marriage, the two were on the brink of divorce. According to an interview on Oprah, Terry claimed she planned to divorce Jonathan after her next book, The Interruption of Everything. One night, Terry asked Jonathan where he planned on living after they split up, and after asking to postpone the divorce, he told her that he was gay. Terry felt betrayed, and the two went back and forth on multiple talk shows to tell their respective sides of the story. Despite the way the marriage ended, McMillan says that she does not regret the years she was married to Jonathan, as they were some of the best years of her life. Psychologist Dr. Robin Smith, who was also on Oprah with McMillan and Plummer, said that fantasy played a significant role in their relationship. A piece of this is about being swept off your feet. The thing is that when we get swept off our feet, we're no longer on any firm foundation. How Stella Got Her Groove Back is one of the many romantic comedies that Black women identify with. They see themselves as Stella and get wrapped up in her perfect fairy tale. Stella's relationship with Winston represented joy, spontaneity, and the happily ever after that we sometimes don't get in the real world. Stella has given many Black women hope that one day they'll find their own Winston Shakespeare. And when they do, hopefully they will have a better Jamaican accent than he did. Stay up to date with the latest news and comedy by subscribing here to our YouTube channel and follow Comedy Hype across all social media. For Comedy Hype News, I'm Symphony Thompson.